Hey, good morning, everybody. It is great to be back with you all again. Phil Friedman here for Friedman Adventures with the Morning Briefing. It is great to be with you as always. As you can see behind me here, it's lovely this morning. Very little wind. The ocean looks pretty darn calm. That is something that we all welcome right now. We've had such a windy start to our springtime, but things are starting to calm down. I don't think we're out of the woods yet. We're still going to see some wind, and we'll see it in various areas, but for right now, things are looking really good, and it's a gorgeous morning, no question about it. Lots to get into with you. However, before we get into the fishing updates, I want to tell you about a couple of things. Number one, we did a memorial trip here recently for my friend Terry, who lost her son. Condolences to Terry. She is such a loving, wonderful person. I feel blessed to know her. I feel blessed that she asked me to help out with this, and we went on board the True Line, and all those guys on the True Line, the crew, were fantastic. Couldn't be any better. It was such a memorable day, and we had 2 stars show up, Rick Fuentes, of course, and Captain Eddie Leland, and the Three Stooges. The three of us were out there doing our best to make sure everybody had a good time. One of the wishes of Justin, who passed away, was that his nephews would catch a fish, and magically, guess who do you think caught the first fish? One of his nephews, Cohen, and we were right there to record it. Eddie Leland really hyped it up. Special moment on board the True Line. Justin's last wish was for the people who loved him to go out on the water for a day's fishing, because that's what he really loved, and he wanted to share that joy and happiness with everybody else. So that is really something special. One of our fans out there, a dear friend of mine, Joe Patino, he's in Maryland. He's in the Armed Forces. Thank you for your service, Joe. He took the time, hang on, I'll be right back. He took the time to carve a beautiful gift for me. And Joe, I'll tell you right now, I can't thank you enough. It is so beautiful. I really absolutely love this, and it's going to go in the studio really, really soon. Joe Patino is a great family guy, great father, and a dear friend. He is number one. I don't even know if I've ever told Joe this, but when I was going to China to teach for 3 years, before I left, Joe gave me one of these like Marine Corps knives that you can almost cut yourself out of a car with. And he said, here, just in case. And I said, Joe, you're number one. So I put it in my luggage, flew to China, unpacked. My first day in China, one of my co-teachers, Shelley, was there, and I said, okay, time for me to go out and check out what mainland China is walking around. And I grabbed my knife and I went to put it in my pocket, and she said, you are going to go to jail if you go out there with that. And I'm like, what? Is it safe out there? And she said, it's totally safe. Don't take that out there. They will arrest you, blah, 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 blah. So I left the knife with Shelley, and I just hope Albert, her husband, has been behaving, because it was a beautiful blade. No question about it. Really, really great. Okay, and then I am so humbled. I want to show you one more thing here. So humbled because the Outdoor Writers Association of California picked their best video of the year, and there's a lot of them. And I feel so humble to accept this award for our Rescue at Sea podcast, the best video of the year from the Outdoor Writers Association of California. Man, I'll tell you, I humbly accept this. However, I really give all the credit to the 3 participants of that show, and that would be Desiree, who is making the world a better place, is a wonderful person. I feel blessed to call her a friend. And of course, Mark Paisano and Paul Strasser, the 2 captains that rescued her. One more little bit of irony for you about that award, okay? Because if you've ever watched that podcast, you know about all the coincidences that took place and led Mark and Paul to Desiree. Like, going west instead of east, getting into a yellowtail bite, which made them leave later than usual. Paul Strasser paying attention on the wheel and actually seeing the bow of that boat sticking up out of the water. All these coincidences that came together. And then, as Mark Paisano told me, he said, Phil, think about this. If it wasn't for COVID, you'd still be in China running your little school and teaching in the school where you were. None of this would have happened. So sometimes my schedule gets super busy and I'm not able to pick up my mail. So wouldn't you know that I picked that award up on May 19th. May 19th is when I picked it up. The very day that Mark and Paul rescued Desiree, now 36 years ago. Just keeps on going. And once again, my thanks to the Outdoor Writers Association of California for choosing our podcast. I deeply appreciate it. I'm very humbled, very honored, but all the credit goes to the three participants, Mark, Paul, and of course, Desiree, who continues to do great things in our world. All right, let's get into the fishing. It's about time. Get your cup of coffee, sit back, I'll get you up to date. Let's start down around Ensenada, where it's about a 20-mile run for the Pongeros out of there. They're catching lots of bluefin on the troll. It's been a little sputtery for some lately. And by that I mean, guys are not getting their 2 fish limits on the bluefin tuna. Still getting a fish per rod in most cases, but sometimes falling a little bit below that. So we're watching it closely, seeing if it's just a little bit of a down period. Sometimes the body of fish moves and the boys have trouble getting on top of it, but we're certainly seeing that. And other times, like Alma the other day, who had that great day, she had 3 bluefin tuna down there in Ensenada. Really great fishing at other times. The XL with over 100 BFT at night the other night. What a catch. And I mean, most of this fish is 40 to up to 200 pounds. It's such a great grade of fish. It's so close to home. It's still super special. The nighttime has been the right time. There are fish being taken in the daytime, but nighttime, really good knife jigs, Zakana jigs, flat falls, 180 to 250 grams have been working really well, and we just marvel at the bite. But I just want you to know it's sputtering a little bit. It's not weather for sure. Weather's beautiful. It's going to stay that way for a while. That is all really good news. Looking at the one-day boats, the boys that leave at 6 a.m. out of San Diego. The San Diego is one of those boats. The Malahini is one of those boats. The Grande, the Liberty. Those guys are now focusing some of their efforts on kelp patty yellowtail, and that's great because sometimes when you're out looking for those big tuna, it can become a long day and you get 1 or 2 of those things. But now, with the addition of these kelp patty yellowtail, I love that. And it's in the zone where you can still get those giant bluefin tuna. So some scores up there on 40, 50 on the yellowtail, on kelps. Darn good score there for a boat that's leaving at 6 a.m. and returning at 6 p.m. And also a chance at those big tuna. So to kind of bring this all together, you need to diversify your tackle. You need a little bit lighter stuff for those forks on the kelps. So, 30, 40 pound fluorocarbon. We love Opsin, www.opsinusa.com. Put in FA at checkout. You'll get a note from Greg and a free gift. That's going to work really well. Choosing a good hot bait, but you gotta have the heavy. You gotta have a 2-speed reel. I like 80 to 100 pound on that. And again, you got a chance at both those species on those one-day trips. Nothing wrong with that. A little shot of big yellows along the coast down there in La Jolla from time to time. 1 to 5 fish. I think that could improve the Coronado Islands. A lot of yellows zooming around there. I know some private guys have had some decent fishing, but most people are just not interested. They're fishing the tuna and now kelp patty yellowtail, so you get the best of both worlds when you're offshore. But those islands are developing, and that could get really good in a hurry here. It's starting to show all kinds of good signs. Up the coast a little bit further here, Dana Point, we're seeing good bass fishing, a lot of shorts, but some more and more legals, a little bit of barracuda. That could get going here one of these days. We've seen enough barracuda around town where I'm looking for a boat to get 50 legals one of these mornings really quick, maybe this morning, who knows. Up there, San Pedro, Long Beach, Santa Monica Bay, and up to Ventura, a little bit of bass along the coast, a few halibut in there, some bonita, barracuda. No huge numbers yet, but springtime is starting to finally evolve a little bit. As that water warms up, that's when you're going to get a bite. Get up over 60, and then the more you go up, as long as it's not too high, the more you go up, and we're not going to get that this year, the better it gets. So we're watching. And there's been some tanker white sea bass for the guys that like to keep a lid on it along the coast. Also, they like to fish those kelp lines with a big mackerel and heavy string. There's been some fish in the 50, 60 pound class. Nothing wrong with that. Pride yesterday, nice shot for them at a 22nd Street landing, but man, they made everybody wait till the end. I love that kind of a fishing trip, by the way, where you don't get what you're after. Like, I mean, they're good fishing right up the whole day yesterday on board the Pride. They had sheepshead and whitefish and all kinds of fish on the leadhead and squid fishing along the kelp line. It was constant action, a lot of fun, but they wanted to catch some sea bass and halibut and yellows perhaps, and it was at the last minute when they pulled it out, and I love that kind of a trip. It just seems so great when you get it done like that. 8 white sea bass, hooked about a dozen fish, 4 yellows, a halibut. Nice shot there. Slowly but surely, our island waters are starting to clean up and starting to look much better. They're at the point now where you can see a good explosion here today. You really, really could. Freedom is going to be out. Thunderbird, Jeff, doesn't get any better than that. Amigos running now again. All those guys are going to be in the ballpark. Pride, all those guys have a good shot. Yo-yo ironfish, yes indeed. The yo-yo iron is really effective right now on those yellows, but there's been even fish taken on the surface iron. But when you're fishing that iron, especially yo-yo, 50, 60 pound, you want to fish heavy. Dropper loop, very effective at times. And halibut fishing has been quite good. You know, when you're exploiting squid nests, you're fishing around those squid nests, that's just a big magnet that draws all those fish in there. So that is looking really, really excellent right now. All right, and 13 halibut on the El Dorado yesterday at a Long Beach sport fishing. Not a darn thing wrong with that kind of a score. I love halibut fishing. And my dear departed father, every time my brother Paul and I would go fishing, he'd say the same thing pretty much. Catch me a halibut. He loved to eat halibut. And he used to fish up there in Ventura off the piers when he was a young man and catch copious amounts of halibut. So he was all over it. So I always have a fond memory of that when I hear a lot of halibut. Same thing up there in the Channel Islands where they've got some decent weather. And of course, we'll be out on Sunday on the Island Spirit. Fingers crossed that that sea bass bite is going to go off, because they are seeing the sea bass, but they still have lockjaw, not biting all that well. There's been some pretty good catches of halibut up there. There's a smattering of sea bass to indicate that it could take off. It hasn't yet. Copious amounts of rockfish up there, which is all very, very good. High hopes that it's going to get going. On a day trip yesterday, Speed Twin, 20 guys, a yellowtail, 10 halibut. That's one leaving in the morning, like we're going to be leaving Sunday morning. The CJ had a white sea bass. Ranger 85 was out for 3 days, but on one of those days, I think this entire catch was made on one day. I could be wrong on that, but 15 halibut taken. And Scott Buchert, who of course is crew on board the Ranger 85, and a good source of info for me. Scotty, love you. Good job as always. Keep that info coming. White swim baits. White swim baits have been the key on the flatties, and I'm sure that would work on the San Pedro boats and everything else. If you have live squid, of course, you may want to do that, but there have been a lot of fish taken on those baits. White swim baits have been working really well. 1.5 ounce lead head. Now, Scott said the color of the lead head was irrelevant, but one of our great listeners out there said, wait a minute, a red lead head with that white swim bait has been even more effective. I appreciate the intel coming in here as always. It means a lot to all of us. So we're pretty much sold out. I think we are sold out on Sunday's trip. Looking forward to that. For those of you who are listening, of course, I've sent you out tackle lists, and I'll just remind you all to dress in layers. Sounds like it's going to be a little bit cooler. Weather's still looking really, really good. Might get windy in the afternoon, but we should get a good shot at the sea bass, halibut, yellows in the morning. Fingers crossed that that'll be the magical day when it all goes off. And then, of course, if it does or doesn't, we're going to focus on some rockfish for all of you also. Really, really looking forward to seeing you all. I'll be heading over to the CCA barbecue in just a little bit. Hope to see you there. If I do see you there, make sure you come over and say hello. It's always a pleasure for me to say hello to each and every one of you. All right, are you done with your coffee? I'll tell you, I'm going to go get some more. And I can't wait to see what another day in sport fishing will bring us. So you have a great day. Thank you so very much for being with us again this morning. Friedman Adventures morning briefing in the books for today. We'll see you again tomorrow.